Steelers. Every week it seems to be something different. In week 13 against Washington, it was all the drops. They dropped 7 passes, their most in a game over the last 15 years. That handed them their first loss of the year after starting 11-0. Then they followed that up last week at third downs in Buffalo. That was tied for their second worst in a game that Ben Roethlisberger had started, so that felt bad. But then it seemed they had a get-right opportunity on Monday night against a bad team in Cincinnati. But they were the bad team that night. Big Ben completing only 8% of his passes that he threw at least 10 yards downfield. That was the worst by Roethlisberger in a game that he finished over the last 15 seasons. So just in every conceivable way, it has been a precipitous slide for the Steelers. And so, Ryan Clark, I start with you as my former Steeler here. I feel like all season long, I've been trying to get you more excited about the Steelers than you've wanted to be back to when they were, putting together this perfect run. Now maybe I'm starting to see a little bit of why. Can they turn this around in the next 2 weeks?
Can they? Yeah, they can. Will they? I don't necessarily believe they will. Sometimes you just don't have the people. And you look at defensively, they've lost those guys, the Bud Duprees, the Devin Bushes. You're not even playing with Spillane and Vince Williams at linebacker. But when you watch this offense, where's the physicality? Where's the inversion of the line? Where's the inverting of the line? You look at the 3rd and 1 that Snell barely got. It's because the linemen were in the backfield. And now you go to your aging quarterback. And I said it a few weeks ago. They're putting too much on Ben Roethlisberger. You have no run game. You have no play action game. You try to throw short passes in order to create shorter gains, to get runs and catches, to try to pick up first downs. And you can't push the ball down the field. So where do you go? That's all of football. You're not making the turnovers and pressuring the quarterback and getting things done defensively. You can't move the ball offensively. And when you lose a game to the Washington football team who is playing better, you say, oh, okay, that happens. And then you come back and you lose to the Buffalo Bills, who are probably the second best team in football. You say, okay, that happens. But the Cincinnati Bengals, with Ryan Finley, a dude that they didn't necessarily even know if they wanted to start and play the football game, those are things you can't do. As players, you have to have a certain level of pride. Of players, you have to understand that you need to fix things. And the Pittsburgh Steelers don't seem like they have the ability to do that right now. My question is, who can they beat in the playoff picture?
Right.
This week, we have a chance to find out.
That's the most damning part. That's the most damning part to me, is that they came off of 2 losses in a primetime Monday night game. Like, in a normal situation, you might drop a game to a team that's worse than you, and you say we were overlooking them, or we weren't ready for this game. We weren't up for this game. They were up for this game. They gave the Bengals their best shot, and their best shot was not good enough. When you come off of 2 losses and you're a Monday Night Football, you're going to play as hard as you can. You're going to game plan as hard as you can. And then they got outplayed. And I think Ryan touched on a lot of the reasons, but their offense is bad because they're putting too much pressure on Ben, and that makes their offense bad, which ends up putting too much pressure on their defense. Like, their defense is not bad, but they're asking them to do too much at this point in the season. And it doesn't make sense. I don't know what team showed up for that game on Monday night, but I don't have much faith. You asked the question, Ryan, that I don't have an answer to. Who are they going to beat in the playoffs? I can't think of too many teams that I feel confident that they are better than at this point.
Yeah, they play Indianapolis this weekend, Brian, you're touching on there, which is a critical game. If they lose that, then the division could get away from them the last weekend of the season. And Graziano, that's the sort of the short-term picture. Let's look at the big-term picture. You said something yesterday that had everyone going crazy here on our set. What is Ben Roethlisberger going to cost them next year?
Cap number next year, $41.25 million. That's his cap number next year. Unless they can knock that down by extending him, but then you're kicking the problem down the road a little bit, right? So they have a
lot of decisions to make. So then, RC, I come back to you as, a former Steeler. This is an era. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is one of those few players who constitute an era on a team. Does it feel to you like we may be seeing the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era this month?
I mean, we've always known it was close, right? We've been waiting for this. It's like when John Coffey was finally walking the Green Mile. We knew it would happen. We fought it. We didn't want it to happen. Tom Hanks did his best to not let it go down, but it did. And that's where we are right now with Ben Roethlisberger. And It's one of those things where if your emotions get involved, you say to yourself, okay, we can't get rid of Ben. Ben should finish this the way he wants to. But then when the business of football gets involved, it's an issue. When his cap number is going to be close to a David Mulligata year of commissions on representing Deshaun Watson and Jalen Ramsey, that's an issue. When his play doesn't match that, that's an even bigger issue. And that's where we are now. I don't see how this team moves forward thinking they can win a Super Bowl with Big Ben playing the way he is, and also with Big Ben costing what he does.
So does that mean, Dominique, that we're about to see something we haven't seen in what feels like forever, which means a true rebuild in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I doubt that we see that. It doesn't seem like, and Kevin Colbert's one of the best GMs in football, and it doesn't seem like that's the way that they operate. They don't operate in a true rebuild type of way. They're going to try to retool, and Mike Tomlin's the same way. He's never had a losing season. So I don't think they'll have a true rebuild, but I do think they probably need to move on from Ben if there is no way to restructure this contract. And since Ryan's making the movie references, I was reminded of Malcolm X when everyone was outside of the hospital, and Malcolm X went to the Fruit of Islam like this. Like, this is what Kevin Colbert should do to Ben Roethlisberger. Just like Malcolm did to the Fruit of Islam. Go ahead. Stop. You gotta go. It's as simple as that.
He just said, did Adam Schefter not just report 2 days ago that Ben says he wants to come back next year?
Yeah, and that's the issue, right? Because they probably can't bring him back on the contract as it currently stands. So what do you do? Do you extend him? How can you extend him if you're not sure he's going to be able to perform at a high level and pay him that money? They have a major, major puzzle.
We will try and figure this out as the day continues. We also have a question for you. It's on my Twitter page, at ESPN Greeny on Twitter. Which of the AFC North teams that figure to make it do you think winds up being the last one standing next month? Steelers, Browns, Ravens, at ESPN Greeny on Twitter. Cast your vote. Let us know what you think. Meanwhile, Graziano, let's run the hurry up through some other news and notes. And we start with this news on coaching interviews.
Interesting. As of today, teams that have head coach openings or interim head coaches, Detroit, Houston, Atlanta, can interview over video chat coaches that are still employed by other teams. It's a major change. It could allow a guy like Eric Bieniemy to start doing coaching interviews as early as this week. We'll see what happens. Obviously, your team has to give permission for you to do it, so we'll see how that process goes. But a change to how head coach interviews are conducted starting this week. The 49ers signed quarterback Josh Rosen off the Buccaneers practice squad. You may not have remembered that he was on the Buccaneers practice squad, but the former top 10 pick is now a 49er because Nick Mullins is hurt, won't be able to finish the season. They don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be back this year. The Niners have a quarterback conundrum going forward, but for now they need extra bodies in there. They're going to take a look at Josh Rosen. And speaking of quarterbacks, the Raiders don't know who their quarterback's going to be for this weekend's game. Derek Carr was able to get in some practice yesterday, split the first team reps with Marcus Mariota. The team wants to see if Carr can get through the week healthy and then make a decision about who the quarterback will be for this weekend's game.
That's a critical game, and by the way, it's a playoff battle for them against Miami. As we continue, New England's playoff streak has ended with Cam